Welcome to the 13th show and the start of our second season of Touring Texas Songwriters with our host, the long tall Texan, Mr. Bruno Michel. Today's show features Austin doctor and singer-songwriter Barbara Bergin and is brought to you by the Barrel Brewing Company and the citizens of historic Salado, Texas. Barbara Bergin was recorded live in front of a studio audience for broadcast on Country Radio Switzerland. Sit back, relax, and listen to the stories and songs of Barbara Bergin.
All right. Welcome to the second season of Touring Texas Songwriters. First show in the second season, actually. We already did 12. And if anybody has any orthopedic problems, Richard will clear the kitchen table after the show, because this lady right here is not only a soundsmith, she's also a surgeon by day.
I brought some little blue gowns. You can slip in
Richard
one.
Richard will clear the table. You can get fixed whatever you need fixed. So that's the good news. Now, she started playing guitar when she was 14 years old, and she's also an author with several books on the record. So we just got one that obviously has nothing to do with surgery.
No, it doesn't. There's a little bit of surgery in it, but it's not about surgery.
And I would say enjoy the show with Barbara Bergin. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'd say we'll start with a song.
All right. Well, I'm going to play a song. You know, I started playing when I was a teenager, but I really didn't get serious about songwriting until I was about 40 years old. I had a really bad case of stage fright, and I just did not want to sing, but songs just weren't coming to my head. And then I got involved. I started riding horses and started listening to country music. I used to be kind of a rocker, and I started listening to country music, and a couple of country songs just popped into my head, and I wrote them down. I didn't sing them for many years, but I'm going to play one of them for you now. This is basically the first song that I wrote. It's called My Life's Good Because I Don't Live in the City. I got a job working downtown. Don't ask why, it's the one I found. Every day at 6, 40-mile drive. Turn on talk radio, keeps me alive. Listen to stuff about politics ain't pretty, but my life's good 'cause I don't live in the city. Yeah, my life's good 'cause I don't live in the city. Saturday, Sunday, I'm up at dawn, feeding cattle, dogs, and horses, cleaning the barn. Got a hay pasture in the back, needs a new fence. Get those T-posts in the ground while I got a chance. Back of my neck you. That song's always a lot of fun for me to sing. It just kind of brings back memories of chasing cows around on horseback. And we actually do live in the city, but we have a little place out in the country, and that's where I kind of learned about all that stuff that I talk about, T-posts and things like that.
Now, some folks just are playing and writing. You, however, attended a music school to get your skills honed. And is this because of your other life as a surgeon that you want to do things the educated way, or was it just not want to try and error? What?
You mean taking classes?
Yeah, why did you go to class before you wrote and sang? I mean, kind of.
Well, okay, there is this group, company in Austin. It's called Girl Guitar. And I really, since between junior high and, 40, 45, I really actually played on my own and just listened to stuff by ear. When I was a teenager, and you probably remember this, some of y'all remember this, that you couldn't, before the internet, you had to just listen to records, lift the needle up, put it back down, lift the needle up, put it back down. And that's how we learned how to play, by ear. And I just strummed and played my guitar and learned how to play that way. But when in Austin, there's this group called Girl Guitar, and it's kind of a unique idea. It's women teaching women teachers, female students, and they have band classes. And so you take 6 lessons and then go give a performance. And that was the first time that I started performing. And I was very nervous, and it was very hard to work through it. But after that, I just started just getting used to doing that, and then all of a sudden, then I learned how to play my guitar a little better, and took additional lessons, and then started writing more music. I never really had formal.
You're still taking classes, or you're
I am taking. Okay, so now I'm taking flat picking lessons. So during the Girl Guitar lessons, I took a bluegrass class. A band class, and we sang a couple of bluegrass songs, and I really enjoyed that, and so I started writing bluegrass songs, and I also started taking flat picking lessons. I'm not going to do any flat picking for you today because I'm not I'm a beginner there.
Why did it take until 2018 until your first CD came out?
Well, and
it's coming out.
It's coming out in 2020. That's just how long it took me to make up that number of songs and get the courage to go out and play in public venues. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Have you any idea how many you wrote in total?
I probably have written about 40 songs total, and there's going to be, I think, like 12 on that CD.
So just out of that selection then?
Right.
Yeah. Anything special new that you wrote for that?
I've got those
project,
songs. There's one of the songs is an old song. It's this song that I just played, and but the rest of them are actually relatively new.
You said your favorite style is kind of the old time thing. So what can we expect from the CD?
Well, so I like to write kind of old timey songs that have an old timey subject matter. I put historical stuff in some of the songs and just write as though the song was written a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And the bluegrass songs are like that. I have some modern songs also. I'll play one of those for you next. But most of my songs are kind of old-timey. I mean, you wouldn't really know when they were written if you listen to a lot of them.
Okay.
So
yeah. Let's play that modern one then.
Let's do Blood Red Moon. And that's the title of my CD is Blood Red Moon. And it's a relatively new song relatively new song compared to My Life's Good, because I don't live in the city. There's a taste of metal in the air, blood on my hands, a song I wish I'd learned. Now I want a man who can give me all he can, and I'm following his footprints in the sand. And when I find him, I'm gonna hold on with both hands. Hole in my pocket, nothing ever stays. I hear someone cussing, someone prays. He stayed with me till I wanted to be alone, but I never took the time to learn his song. Now I want a man who can give me all he can, and I'm following his footprints in the sand. And when I find him, I'm gonna hold on with both hands. Last night's dinner burned cold on the stove, and I think of him whenever we're alone. Clouds come in, couldn't see the blood red moon. Sun come up, why don't you leave my room? Now I want a man who can give me all he can, and I'm following his footprints in the sand. And when I find him, I'm gonna hold on with both hands. Woke up to music rolling in my head. Hotel room key underneath the bed. Blood red moon gone, pine trees burning down. And I ain't ever coming back to this old town. I ain't ever coming back to this old town. And I want a man who can give me all he can, and I'm following his footprints in the sand. And when I find him, I'm gonna hold on with both hands, and I'm following. Yeah, I'm following. Thank you. Thanks. So that's Blood Red Moon. And I'd just like to take a minute to introduce my
Sure.
band. David Carroll on bass. And Eric Betancourt, guitar. Appreciate y'all coming out here to do this with me.
Now, some of the songwriters at one time think, well, let's do that full time, let's just pursue music. Is that any time in the cards for you in the future, or are you just too hooked on seeing blood? Not only the blood red moon, but the blood.
Well, I'm pretty hooked on the blood, and I have a lot of patience. So this is not. I have this day job that draws me, and I don't see this becoming a full-time gig until maybe I retire. Then you'll see me down on 6th Street. Playing, yeah, right, playing for quarters.
Right. Yeah, that actually leads me to another thing, which is way back here. You founded this thing called Texas Orthopedic, and that's gotten pretty big in the meantime. So, knowing everybody of you has at any time been in hospital or with a specialist or something, so you know how the bills look. So I think you may be able to actually do the retirement pretty soon. So what's the plan there?
Well, I'm going to probably practice for another 5 years.
Okay.
I just turned 65 a few days ago, and so I'm going to try to make it another 5 years. I've got a lot of great partners. They're probably ready for me to move along.
Right.
But that's the plan. I started the group 33, almost 34 years ago with 2 other guys that I trained with. And now there's like 39 of us.
It's gotten pretty big.
It's a big group, yeah.
So retirement's in the stars then, so it's coming.
Right.
And then 6th Street is just
Then,
like trade your home for an RV and just travel up and down 6th Street, right? Okay. Now, like Sarah Pierce, you're familiar with ranching and you love horses. Now, I can't imagine how you can write songs, write books, do your day job, and then still find time to go to competitions with your horse sneakers. How the hell do you do that?
I know. It's kind of I don't sleep very much. That's important, you know. I'm very efficient. You know, a lot of people want to do things, and they spend a lot of time thinking about things that they want to do. And I really, when I decide I want to do something, I just really make a plan, and I act on that plan. And so, you know, when I started writing songs and I realized that I could write some songs, I just made a plan for how I was going to do that and finished it. And when I made a plan, despite having a lot of stage fright, I mean, there was a time when I would try to do that finger picking and my fingers would literally like go like this. And but there was a time when that was a problem, and it really kept me from just going out and playing. And then I just had to work through it. And then, you know, when this idea for the book, and I've only actually published one book. There's 2 others in the works, okay? They're going to have to wait for retirement, too. But when I decided to write that book, it popped into my head, literally. And I came home and I started writing, and I wrote about 15 pages, and I called my mom, who's out here in the audience, and I said, "Hey, Mom, I just wrote this book." And she was like, "Oh, yeah, whatever. Send it on over here." like everybody who says they want to write a book, right? And so I sent it to her, and she was like, "Oh, my gosh." You know, she called me back immediately and said, "You need to quit your day job." And so I didn't. And so I just kept writing, and I felt this, if anybody in here has ever written a book, sometimes you feel this compulsion to write. Every day I came home, and it wouldn't take, you know, if you spend 45 minutes and you write, it gets done. It took me 3 years to get it finished and published. So it wasn't like it was just overnight. And then the other books just popped into my head as well. But I've had a harder time really finishing those because it just is. Now I know what the editing process is like. So that sort of, now I've got like writer's block, you know, just, and I'm sure I experience this with songs too. I don't write songs a lot. They have to come to me like the whole song almost, you know, I have to be ready for it, and I'm not just writing songs all the time. So I'm kind of a perfectionist, and so like something has to really gel. And that sort of, you know, makes me sometimes not do it, you know.
It's a good thing that issue with your fingers happened during guitar playing, not during surgery, right?
It is strange. People go, okay, why are you so nervous to sing and play guitar in front of people? You do surgery.
Right.
It's not
the same. Yeah. Totally
no, my
different.
fingers have never done that thing while I'm in the operating room.
That's a good thing, yeah.
I'm here to promise you that. And it's just, that is a strange phenomenon,
right.
because there is something different about singing and playing in front of people. You guys, I mean, y'all just like, it does. I mean, I get nervous. I was nervous coming over here and had to kind of warm up my fingers
Right.
first because I was a little worried they wouldn't go.
All right. Yeah, let's warm them up a little more. Play another song.
All right. Well, I think what I'll do is I'll do one of my old-timey songs.
The possum in the whole thing? Or?
No, possum doesn't come till the end.
Okay.
Don't jump the gun on possums in the corn now, and y'all are all going to participate in that. No, I write these, as I mentioned before, I write these old-timey songs, and it's an interesting thing that, you know, a lot of these old-timey songs come to me in the male person. And part of that is because historically, you know, to have something exciting happen, it usually happens to men in the old days. Women had, you know, a hard time in the old days and had to be protected in a way. And not that many, you know, men were the ones that went to war. Men were the cowboys. Men went out and did exploring. And very few women did that. So a lot of these songs, when I write about adventure and stuff, I write in the male voice. You very rarely hear men singing songs in a female voice. The only one that comes to my mind, and I challenge anybody to think of another one, is John Prine singing "Angel from Montgomery." That's
Bobby McGee.
Yeah, there. That's a good
Is
one.
that right?
Well, wait a minute.
I can't remember.
Yeah, that's that's a girl voice.
Yeah. Oh, never
song.
mind. I think I get that backwards.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I mean, I think it is. But there's just not very many. But like the fact that we have to think about them, whereas most songs are written by guys, and so they're in a male voice. Hello. So I've written a bunch of them, and this is one of them. So when I was writing this song, when this song came to my head, I was just, sometimes songs come to my, excuse me, I'm going to lick my thumb so my pick doesn't drop out of my. Sometimes songs, the idea for the song comes to me first, sometimes words come first, and sometimes a lick comes first. And so I was sitting around kind of playing this little lick here. I don't know, it just started evolving. And then words came to me, and the words "She Danced with the Young Prince of Wales" came to me. And then I started making up the song, and I wasn't sure it was going to be like a modern Prince of Wales or a historical Prince of Wales, but it turned into a Civil War song. And so at first I was like, well, how does that fit in with the Civil War song? And so I just went and looked up who was the Prince of Wales around the time of the Civil War. And I don't know if any of y'all are watching Victoria, but it turns out that the Prince of Wales was Bertie in Victoria, and that was one of Victoria's sons who ended up being the King of England. But while he was a young man, he was a playboy, and he traveled to the United States. He was the first British emissary to the United States after the Revolutionary War. And he came over and messed around with all the wealthy gals and, just lived the playboy life here in the United States, and then went back to England and married and became the King of England. He apparently became a pretty good king. But anyway, so it turned out that this fit perfectly into my song. So I want you to picture yourself, you're sitting in a cafe or something in the early 1900s, and there's an old man sitting over in the corner. He's got the long tapered beard and a mustache that was the style of that time, and he's telling a story to some fellows that are sitting around. This is called "She Danced with the Young Prince of Wales." Oh, yes. You're reminding me. I need a capo. I was going to sing this song in a manly voice, but I changed my mind. David said it didn't matter. When I was but a young lad of 1score and 3, I went off to fight against Robert E. Lee. We passed through a town on the way stop for the night on the road from Atlanta. There was a young maiden wore a faded silk gown, who lit a kind flame from her barn since torn down. We sat round the fire and she told us a tale of how she had danced with the young Prince of Wales, how she had danced with the young Prince of Wales. Had none to help her but her old household man, and he made us a stew pot of turnips and ham. He played an old harp and we danced a quadrille, and she showed how she danced with the young Prince of Wales, and she showed how she danced with the young Prince of Wales. Her hair was spun honey and her eyes were dove gray, and I promised that I would go back there someday. She smiled and she gave me a tiny gloved hand, and I made for her finger a woven straw band. I lost more than my leg in Georgia that year, and an old man's eyes dim by time and by tears. The memory of a bonny lass never may fail, and I dream of her dance with the young Prince of Wales, and I dream of her dance with the young Prince of Wales. When I was but a young lad of 1score and 3, I went off to fight against Robert E. Lee. I met a young maiden of whom I regale, and she told how she danced with the young Prince of Wales, and she told how she danced with the young Prince of Wales. Thank you. I think that's a true story.
Right. Now, Rachel, you figured that out. You mess around with girls, you become king.
All right.
All right. Now, writing a song and later change it to make it better is something that's obviously possible, and it's not so much the case in surgery, because, you know, if you mess it up the first time, it's probably not going to work out pretty good.
Right,
Now,
yes.
well, how do you approach songwriting? Is it like with surgical precision to do it right the first time, or is it just piece by piece and then kind of puzzle it together? Or
I've written a couple of songs that literally came to me from start to finish, and it was a weird thing, and it came to me so quick that I got out a recorder and recorded it, and then I was like driving, and when I got home there was a song. And but most of the time, like I said before, it's different things. Like in this case, it was a lick. A lot of times, a lot of my songs come to me. The Blood Red Moon song was a lick that I was working on, and all of a sudden words start coming. Sometimes I think about an idea that I'd like to write a song about, and then I'll start, just coming up with how, verses and words and sentences. Sometimes I'm sitting around and I may hear a conversation, or I may hear somebody else's song or something, and it'll start making me think of words, and I'll start just writing stuff down. I wrote a song recently that I'm not going to play today because it's brand new. And but that was like that. I just started writing sentences down, and then later on that materialized into a song. So I write songs all different ways.
Are they coming more often than earlier to you, or is it kind of still
About the same.
About the same.
I'm not very prolific in that regard. Some people write a song a day or a song a week or something like that. I've tried that. I've done some songwriting classes, where they give you prompts and stuff. Have y'all ever done that? Have you ever done those? I mean, that's kind of a cool way to do it, but those haven't necessarily, some of them have turned into good songs, but some of them have turned into songs that were a little bit forced, And so that hasn't necessarily been something that I've sought out. Plus, I actually, can't stay on some kind of a schedule for that.
Yeah.
When I retire, maybe, but...
It's also hard to understand these factory songwriters, you go in at 8 and you leave at 5 and you've written 5 songs. And
it's amazing.
It's pretty crazy, actually.
I know.
Songs, anyway.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah. But they fit the marketing budget, so...
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Now, what song that you've written are you especially proud of and why?
Well, I'm very proud of the Blood Red Moon song because I think that's kind of an unusual song. It's got some unusual lyrics that are hard, like people have to think about it. My book is the same way, the endings, the book I wrote. It's that is a somewhat sad but romantic story, but there's some sadness to it. And the end is a little bit, hard to explain, and people have to really think about the end of that book. And so that, I think Blood Red Moon is kind of that way too. It just appeals to that sense of mystery and, a little bit of evil. And but I also love Drop D. I mean, I love Drop D.
I know.
How did the book came about anyway? Because you write songs and you write obviously professional articles for magazines in the medicine field. What made you write a book? Like you have nothing else to do, right? Let's write a book.
Yeah, no, literally, I was driving to a horse show, and I found myself, it was raining, and I found myself a little bit too close behind another horse trailer. And I just, all of a sudden I was like, whoa, I better back off here. And then this idea for that story just came to my head. And I mean, the whole thing. And I wouldn't have thought about writing a story. I mean, my mom says I was a very good writer when I was young, but I don't believe her, and there's no record of it. And I went into a science field where I don't do any kind of creative writing. Right. And now all of a sudden that side of my brain is just like, going crazy. And but it just, those words did just come to my head, and they turned out pretty good. And I won a couple of awards for that book, and I'm still selling copies of it. I brought y'all a copy of it. I hope you'll enjoy it. It's probably more women's reading, though. I mean, but some men have read it and really enjoyed it. Yep. So.
Now, how do you, by the way, keep those brain halves apart from interfering with each other? And like you're in the middle of a surgery, and then you have an idea for a song, or
like I'm in the middle of operation, I start singing, "Hand me the life."
Yeah. Well, hopefully not the Beatles tune "Help,"
these sides of my brain do not crisscross. It's
not at
just
all. Okay.
weird. Now, if I'm in the middle of working on a song and I get an emergency page or something like that, then, I'm not like, hold on a minute, let me finish
the song first.
Phrase here.
Bad luck, buddy.
So I don't have any trouble switching back and forth, but it really, I'm very focused when I'm seeing my patients and doing my surgeries. That's that's just something that is inside of me, that focus.
Yeah, you better be.
Yeah, right.
All right, let's play another one then.
Well, I tell you what, let's play the song that I wrote from start to finish on my way from Austin to San Antonio. I come out of my neighborhood and I pass over a low water bridge, and I was like, oh, low water bridge, that sounds like a good subject for a song. And I wrote the song between Austin and San Antonio, and got out my cell phone. Thank goodness for cell phones, otherwise I would have had to write it while I was driving. And so this is called Low Water Bridge. Low water bridge at the fishing hole. Meet down there when the water ran low. Shuffling in the green moss found a tadpole. Low water bridge at the fishing hole. Low water bridge first day out of school. Cold beer floating in the middle of a tube. Roll up our jeans and take off our shoes. Low water bridge first day out of school. As far as I remember, this creek never ran dry. Green moss grows thick on the deeper side. Springtime comes, wide water runs cold. Smooth as glass, now the water runs slow. Low water bridge for the very first time. Kiss my love in the waning moonlight. Smiled at me and I closed my eyes. Low water bridge for the very first time. Low water bridge, now the water runs slow. Meeting my son, got our bamboo poles. He's coming from work, hope he gets to go. Low water bridge, now the water runs slow. As far as I remember, this creek never ran dry. Green moss grows thick on the deeper side. Springtime comes, wide water runs cold. Smooth as glass, now the water runs slow. Low water bridge at the fishing hole. Meet down there when the water ran low. Shuffling in the green moss found a tadpole. Low water bridge at the fishing hole. That was sort of a like a cat's in the cradle kind of a song, you know, just a song
Yeah,
about
close,
life.
yeah. Absolutely. Now, you write a lot in all three specialties as a surgeon, as we said, and you write songs and you do books. So which one comes easiest to you? What do you think?
Well, doing surgery, seeing patients. I mean, I've been doing that a long time.
Yeah.
You know, it takes.
I'm talking about the writing of like when you write for a medicine magazine or something,
Oh, okay.
specialty reports or.
Yeah. So what the majority of the medical writing that I do is like I blog. I have a blog that's a medical self help blog, drbarbarabergin.com. And I give a lot of very practical advice that I really think if everybody in the world, or even just everybody in this country, read it, we would save a lot of money. Because there's a lot of things that people do that, from an orthopedic standpoint, that if they just changed a little bit of their behaviors, they would prevent a lot of injury and damage to their joints. And so that's what my blog is about. And that writing comes very easy to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can sit down and just crank one of those up. Like pretty much every day, a patient gives me an idea. Like they don't say, "Hey, Barb, here's an idea for your blog." I'm seeing the patient and they tell me
from
that,
the problems
and I'm like,
have.
okay, there's a blog, and I go home and write. Now, sometimes I don't keep up with the blog as much as I ought to because other things kind of get in the way, but it's super easy to write those blogs. And so that is really the easiest writing, and I'm very much into editing, and I learned that when I wrote the novel. After I got, I had to go through all that process of trying to get a publisher and sending out query letters and getting lots of rejections. And finally, I found a publisher. And then we went through the editing process, and I learned so much about editing through that guy. And, about a third of my book went away. And I was like, oh, I guess I should have paid more attention in English. And
that's going to be volume 2 then.
Yeah, right. And that was just sort of like, oh, really? But now I know a lot about that. But that's something that also keeps me, because like everything that I write, even texts, whatever, I edit it like 3 times. So that's a big burden. Especially if you're writing songs.
It's also time-consuming. Yeah. It's also time-consuming.
Right.
Yeah.
But it keeps you from, it's a little bit of a, if you're looking towards writing a song or writing a book, you're thinking about those 3 edits. Editing a book is huge. And like the book I'm working on called The Wish, that book is probably going to be 2 volumes. It's going to be epic. And it's going to take a lot of editing. My mom is going to help me. She promises she's going to do it. I got to get it done.
Now, this year you were on the road with my old friend Rattlesnake Annie.
Yes.
I hope she's doing well. Haven't seen her in a while, but she was one of the first that we actually interviewed over in Europe still, way back in, I think it was the early 90s or something like that, or late 80s. I can't even remember, but she was performing with the children's choir over there.
Wow.
And if you ever ask her about the children's choir of Grindelwald, she will tell you some stories about it if you see her again.
Her.
She did a lot of work with these guys, and it was basically school that went on tour with her all over the country and played songs, and it was kind of not quite a musical, but pretty close. And Annie did most of the writing and the work, and the kids were just kind of helping perform the whole thing. So yeah, ask her about it.
I will.
Now, you also swapped songs with my old friend Bob Jeebers. What do you learn from songwriters with careers as long as Bob or Annie?
Well, the art of performing. There's a huge difference when those people... I remember the first time that I got on stage, the very first gig I ever did was a song swap, and she came here to do it with me. She lives, until recently... she has recently moved back to the United States, but she's been living in Mexico. So she came up here to do that gig with me. And I was just like, there was just this huge difference obviously, it'd be like me and a medical student, right? In the operating room,
much,
right? Yeah. And even photographs of her, she always makes sure that she has a smile. So there'd be a photograph of the 2 of us, and I'd be like, and she'd be like, just always like on,
Right.
And her voice and her persona was just, so I learned a lot about that from her. And then same from Bob. He just is he's just a great entertainer. The 2 of them are just a lot of fun to watch and listen to.
Are there any other people that you would think you would like to share the stage with, or songwriters where you could probably, gain some of their life's experience to it, or
you mean like
somebody you wish you would actually be on stage with, songwriter type?
Yeah, like Robert Plant or Eric Clapton. Some of those guys. But present company I've learned a lot from too. So these 2 guys are pros, and
Robert and Eric then.
Yeah, right.
I'll be Eric.
But that was when I was in high school, if I had, if somebody had come and made me a wish, it would have been to be a rock star. I would have given up medical school. I mean, that's what I always wanted to do and be. And I mean, I always listened. Those were my favorite, Cream and
the good old
Traffic
stuff,
and Led Zeppelin. Those were my favorite bands, and I really wanted to be like that.
They still are some.
Yeah,
actually,
they are.
Especially for us at the same age, that's
I told
when music was still music.
I sent my my son a little text because Ginger Baker died recently, and
he did?
I
didn't know.
And I sent him a little photograph of the front of Disraeli Gears. I don't know why I bought that album. That was my first album in junior high that I ever bought.
Wow.
And I mean, I don't know why I bought that. I was listening to teeny bopper music back then, and it must have been the pink cover. This pink little doodly cover. Do y'all remember that? And I scratched the hell out of that thing listening to Sunshine of Your Love over and over and over and over again. And that kind of sent me down the pathway of rock and roll.
Pretty cool.
And I love it.
So if you go more into the folk Americana songwriter scene, who would that be then? I mean, except the rock stars, because unless, you can still train for the next life, so
yeah,
you'll be a rock star then.
Folk singers, it's an interesting thing that I didn't listen to, Joan Baez, Marshall Tucker Band. I mean, those were kind of crossover, rock and folk groups like that. But back in the 60s and 70s, like my mom was listening to Joan Baez and Peter, Paul and Mary and groups like that. And I remember playing those songs. If you learned a G, C, and a D, you had it wired. And then the bluegrass, I never grew up with bluegrass, so the bluegrass is a totally new thing. So learning the songs is not just learning how to flat pick, which was hard. I mean, when I first started learning to flat pick, my pick would end up, flying out of my fingers, and I still even now I keep a stack of picks because I'm like my pick might fly out of my hand. But these are not songs that are in my head like most people who played bluegrass, just like people who play rock, like these guys. I mean, they started when they were young, like playing serious, you know.
That's a totally different approach to it.
I didn't start young playing serious. I mean, like I said, I learned how to. I mean, I was strumming G, C, and D.
Right. All right, let's play another one.
All right, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna play Rattlesnake Annie's favorite song.
Okay.
And she might even cover it someday. I hope she will. She still plans on touring. She's like 80 years old.
It's crazy. She has
a big following in Eastern Europe and Japan. Her husband recently passed away, so that's kind of got her down. Let's do Whistling Train. Okay. So this is another one of my old-timey songs, and somebody said, "Oh, every folk singer's got to have a train song." I was like, "All right." So this is one that I decided to write about a subject, and it's in my Guy. It's a Guy song, and it's an old-timey song. Left my home when I was 10, made my lot with the railroad man. Daddy slapped me on my back, pointed down to the railroad track. Mama handed me a cloth of lard, begged me not to go too far. Her tender words were in my brain, but the only thing I heard was a whistling train. The only thing I heard was a whistling train. Went down to where the hobo now beg me not to go too far. Preacher standing at the hangman's tree says a word will set me free. His prayers keep ringing in my brain, but the only thing I hear is a whistling train. Yeah, the only thing I hear is a whistling train. It's a whistling train. Thank you.
Now, before we get to my last one, let's see if anybody else has a question for you. Not the surgical style, you know, my knee hurts. Or
You can ask
whatever.
those questions if you
Yeah,
want.
right. Turn it into a
You
medical
have
block here.
have your insurance card ready. Okay.
It's always the first thing they
$10.
ask. You know?
Yeah, especially since I'm on it now.
New appreciation.
Anybody have any questions? No?
No, everybody wants to ask
Well, we're
about
going
their
to start
pain.
working
but-
on the next record. That's my question.
Yeah, right.
Soon. I am going to start working on it. So, yeah.
Yeah, if you have 40 songs, there's still a couple left for the next one, right?
Well, when I did this CD, I put 12 songs on it because I thought I really, at the time, I thought I was kind of tapped out. I was like, man, I think that's all that's in me. And then, so I put a bunch of songs on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think 12 songs is a lot of songs on a CD. You can put 8, 7, 5. And so, I've now written a bunch more, so I've got enough for another CD. So another one will be forthcoming.
Well, you got to have something to do after you retire, right?
Right.
And they will come out like the blog articles, like every year comes a new one.
Yeah.
And people will be like, oh, here comes, okay, gotta go to more Barbara's gigs.
So anybody? Nope.
I got a question.
They're all sleeping.
You've kind of played with a lot of different styles, rock and bluegrass now. And how about blues? Have you done any blues? Are you thinking about getting into that?
So I challenged myself to write a 12-bar blues song, and it's a pretty cool song. I really like it. It's called Scorpion. I'm not going to play it. I know, because I just don't have the groove. Like, for some reason, I don't have the blues groove, and so when I sing it, it sounds like, I don't know, it just doesn't sound cool. Even though it's a cool song, I've got to figure out, I'm going to work, that song will be on the album, okay? But, one thing is, it's one thing to play songs by yourself. And but I think if I had a band playing a really cool blues, song, then I might be able to get more into it, But just playing it myself, I don't know.
Blood transfusion.
Yeah, right. That's right. I do. So yeah, I've experimented, and I was like, it was so easy for me to write that song that I was like, I can do this for sure. So someday, once I get the groove, I
And it
need
will
to
be
probably,
on a record, yeah.
I'll do some
Absolutely.
blues songs. Yeah.
All right, I see you got 2 left, and I got 1 question left. So
I've actually got 3 left, but we can do 2 or 3, whatever.
okay, put the next one out there, and then we'll get to my
Why don't
last
we do,
one.
all right, so let's do 3 Eggs in My Apron. All right, so this song is I first called this an Irish wedding song, and I don't even know how this song came to my head, the idea for it. I remember when I was a kid, there was a song that we used to sing that lavender blue dilly dilly, and it was about people who probably didn't have a lot of money, wishing that they were, when you are king I will be queen, and so that song, I just always kind of liked that song. And so it's a similar thing. It's a song about a woman on her wedding day who is just thinking about making good out of her means and wishing that dreaming, so to speak. So it's called 3 Eggs in My Apron. Blue ribbon on my bonnet, and to the manor born, Bonnie felt upon his head a gentleman adorned. Wind and rain will pass my face unto another shore. Oh, blue ribbon on my bonnet, and to the manor born. One tooth pulled, another gold, the duchy I have won. Poultice on, the gout is gone, a duke for me may come. Green is on the hillside, but another year is gone. Oh, one tooth pulled and another gold, the duchy I have won. 4 shoes for my piebald cob, and a princess I shall be. Leather boot upon his foot, a prince shall come for me. The road ahead is free of mud and stone and misery. Oh, 4 shifts on my piebald cob, and a princess I shall be. Now I lay me down to sleep and pray a love is found, because he'll stay with me until the day he goes to ground. Oh, a band upon my finger, and a husband he becomes. Father, give a dowry, and to him I now belong. I bear chickens, cow, and goat, our life is now begun. Oh, a band upon my finger, and a husband he becomes. Three eggs in my apron, and I shall be a queen. Butter in the porridge pot, and you will be a king. Belly's full, 2 cheers up, we're no longer lean. Oh, 3 eggs in my apron, and I shall be a queen. I want to go tour someday over in Great Britain and Ireland. So
That would be fun,
go
yeah.
around singing that song.
There's some really good stuff over
smoky
there
bar.
too. Yeah. Hopefully the eggs don't break on the way over. Or rot away when it takes too long to go there.
Eggs will be all right if I just protect them. They don't, in England, they don't put eggs in a refrigerator. You buy them on the counter,
Yeah.
more like with bread, because eggs have a little coating on them that
Right.
protects them, so you don't have to refrigerate them.
Keep them there. Yep. Now,
Just to bring the science to that.
but these days, actually, last time I was over there, they did have fridges. So
Oh, really? They must have had some salmonella or something, and now they're all scared.
exactly. Now, last question: if you were to interview Barbara Bergin, what question would you ask her that I did not?
Well, I'd ask her if she knows how to get in touch with, what's his name, Richard Sheridan, who is the director for Yellowstone. And everybody tells me my song should be on that. That should be in the titles of that show. And I'm going to track that fella down. He does the same kind of horseback riding I do.
Oh, he does.
And I know a few people who know him, and I've got a plan. And you know what happens when I got a plan?
Good.
Yeah. So,
All right. Well, that completes the interview part, but we still got.
let's sing another song.
Another song,
okay,
right?
This one is audience participation. So this song is called Possums in the Corn. And this was my first bluegrass song. And I just was thinking about, I thought about my ranch, and the idea came to me, possums in the corn, because possums and raccoons are always getting into the corn. They figure out how to open things and get in there. And so I came up with the idea for this song, and it's a call and repeat. So when I sing, then y'all, there's certain sentences that I will sing and y'all repeat. And so when I sing possums in the corn, y'all will sing possums in the corn. And when I sing mildews on the hay, y'all sing mildews on the hay. So here goes possums in the corn. Granddad left his place to Mama and she passed it on to me. Left a paying job at the Kmart Mines, took a third class to Abilene. Left the wooded hills of Kentucky, headed for the sun-drenched Texas plains. At the rusty barbed wire fence, we saw just what my granddad gave. Possums in the corn, mildews on the hay. Taxman's lots going to the Lord, and the boar hog's gone today. Possums in the corn, mildews on the hay. Sun come up, roosters crowing, and I think I'm gonna stay. With help from Granddad's neighbors, borrowing on Mama's wedding band. Finally got our food and water from this godforsaken land. Now the windmill needs new leathers and the branding iron's hot. When I go to pull a baby calf, I'm dreaming of gobbler's knot. Possums in the corn, mildews on the hay. Taxman's lots going to the Lord, and the bull hog's gone today. Possums in the corn, mildews on the hay. Sun come up, roosters crowing, and I think I'm gonna stay. There's times I think I'd rather be taking wages from the Kmart one. A spring freeze or a flash flood, and I'm betting on being done. But when I look out at the rows of green and what the Lord and Granddad gave, well, I know I'll stay in Texas till they lay me in the grave. Possums in the corn, mildews on the hay. Taxman's lots going to the Lord, and the bull hog's gone today. Possums in the corn, mildews on the hay. Sun come up, roosters crowing, and I think I'm gonna stay. One more time. Possums in the corn, mildews on the hay. Sun come up, roosters crowing, and I think I'm gonna stay.
Yeah. All right.
Well, thank
Barbara
you.
Bergin,
and
ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
And thank you,
Appreciate
David
it.
Carroll and Eric Betancourt.
Thank you. Great.